Okay, so we've finished our ribbing and now we're going to set up for our brioche. In order to do that with traditional brioche, you're gonna either make a shawl or yarn over and knit that stitch and then slip the next. In single pass brioche, we're gonna do all of that in one step. So in order to do that, my cuff is my main color and my knits are going to be in my contrasting color. So I'm going to take my needle. I like to do this magic loop, but you can do this in any method you prefer. I'm going to yarn over with my main color, go into this first stitch as if to knit, and I'm going to add my contrasting color and knit this stitch. Okay, so let's take a look at what we have on the needle so far. We have our knit stitch and a yarn over. Let's bring both yarns to the front and go through that next stitch as if to purl. We're going to purl it in our main color. Alright, so here we go. We have a yarn over and a knit stitch, and now a purl in main color. Let's take our contrasting color and lay it over the top of the needle and go into our next stitch, which is a knit stitch, and knit it. Now this is where you want to snug everything up, because if your first row is really loose, it's going to look kind of sloppy. Alright, so we have our main color still coming from that purl stitch in front of our work, and we have our contrasting color coming from the knit stitch in the back of the work. We're going to take both strands, bring them to the front, go through that next stitch as if to purl, and purl it with our main color. Alright, into the next stitch as if to knit, knit it with contrasting. Grab both yarns, bring them to the front, into the next stitch as if to purl, purl with main color. And then one more time, into the next stitch as if to knit, knit with contrasting color. So let me show you what that looks like. Well, let me purl again. It's just easier to show you when both yarns are in the front. Okay, so knit with a yarn over, a purl stitch with its yarn over, knit with a yarn over, purl with a yarn over. So every stitch has a yarn over, and we haven't made this one yet. So I'm gonna zoom through to the end and I'm going to show you what I do with that last stitch. Okay, so now I'm on my last stitch. Everybody has been worked except for this last one. So I'm going to bring both yarns to the front, purl through with our main color, and then put this yarn to the back. So our main color is in the back, that last stitch has been worked, and now all I have to do is make this yarn over. And you can do this to begin with, or you can do this at the end. It doesn't matter. This is just the way I like to do it because I can get a rhythm going. So I'm going to lay this over the top because this stitch has to have a yarn over associated with it, and then I can flip over and start to work my back. Alright, so again, I'm gonna make sure that's coming over the needle. I'm gonna grab it, and I'm just gonna work my stranded motif. And in this case, I'm just gonna work one by one, all the way to the end. Okay, so we have our setup row done, and I'm going to show you what it's like to work into these brioche stitches. You're not going to have it as finicky on some of the larger sizes because you'll have knits in front, but because I'm showing you what it's going to look like on some of the smaller sizes, our first stitch is going to be that brioche knit. So we're going to take our needle, yarn over with our main color, and go into that first stitch, our knit and our yarn over as if to knit, and we're going to knit through it. Alright, so now we have both yarns in our hand, bring them to the front, go into this next stitch, the brioche purl with its yarn over, and purl it with the main color. Now you're going to want to snug up after every single stitch. If you do that, you're going to be very happy with your brioche. When it's loose, it can look a little messy, which is fine for a beginner, but if you really want something crisp and polished, you're going to really want to tighten it, even more so than you think you want to do it. Okay, so into our next stitch, remember we're taking the stitch and its yarn over, so as if to knit, knit with the contrasting, snug up, grab both, bring them to the front, into the next stitch, a purl with its yarn over, purl with the main color. And we're just going to do this to the end. This is just to show you what working into these stitches looks like. Alright, so I'm going to do this for a couple rows just so you can kind of see the pattern that gets established, and then we will start with our special brioche stitches. Okay, so this is what 3 rows of just brioche knits and purls stacked on top of each other looks like. I just kind of wanted to get you guys to get a feel for what this looks like. It's very squishy, but the main thing is that if your knit is in a contrasting color, you will have a yarn over and a main color. Every stitch has an associated shawl, so that's the biggest deviation from traditional brioche. We're not doing 2 passes, so you're not creating a shawl for your knit stitches on one pass and then creating a shawl for your purl stitches on the next pass, or that yarn over. You're doing that all together. So every stitch has a alternate color yarn over. So your main color purls will have a contrasting color yarn over. Your contrasting color knits will have a main color yarn over. So that's the biggest thing. Let's get into our decreases. So in this pattern, there is only one decrease. It is the BRK 3 together. Again, I'm going to go for the smallest size, and I'm going to show you what it looks like. Again, it's really tight, so you're going to feel resistance when you're moving the stitches across. Completely okay and exactly what you want. Alright, so I'm going to go in, going to make a brioche knit, I'm going to make a brioche purl, and then I'm going to start my BRK 3 together. Okay, so we're going to take this first stitch and slip as if to knit. So again, this first stitch, every stitch, you count that yarn over as part of the stitch. So go in as if to knit and just slip it off. Alright, so now we're going to go into this next stitch, which is a purl stitch, and knit it. With our contrasting color. And then we're gonna pass that first stitch we slipped with the yarn over the top of the stitch we just knit. okay? And then we're going to transfer this stitch to our left hand needle and pass this stitch and its yarn over the top. Okay, that's what it looks like. Now we have a purl. So let's bring both yarns to the front, purl with our main color. And I'm going to do this again for you guys. Okay. I just completed my purl stitch. Both yarns are in the front. Uh-oh, got a tangle, give me one. Just finished purl stitch, both yarns are in the front. I'm going to create this decrease. We're going to slip this first stitch and a yarn over as if to knit. We're going to work this purl stitch as a knit. And then we're going to pass that stitch we just slipped over the top. Slip this stitch over to the left hand needle and then take the next stitch and pass that over the top. Snug everything up, and that's all there is to it. That is our our right leaning decrease. Okay. Okay, so we've done our decrease, and then we have just a regular row of brioche knits and purls over the top, and I'm going to show you what this decrease looks like on the edge stitch, because that's going to happen for some of the smaller sizes. So shove all our stitches over to the edge of our needle. We are going to set it up just like we would. We're going to go ahead and go under our main color to create that shawl or that yarn over. We're going to go into that first stitch as if to knit and slip it. Go into that second stitch as if to knit and knit it. Bring that first stitch over the top. Slip this stitch to our left needle and bring that stitch over the top. Alright, slip it back to our right needle. Now that stitch is complete, and we can just go ahead and do our brioche purl. Okay, so we've just done our decrease on the edge. We have our brioche purl here, and now we need to do our 1 to 3 increase. So in order to do that, we've got both yarns in the front. We're going to take our contrasting color. We're going to put it over the top and go into this next stitch as if to knit. We're going to knit it, but not take it off of our left needle. Okay, so now we're going to take that same contrasting color, wrap it around, create a yarn over, and go back into that stitch and knit. Okay, now you can throw it off. So now we have 3 stitches coming out of that one stitch. Go ahead and drop your contrasting color, pick up your main color. It's coming from the front. We're going to slide these 2 made stitches to our left hand needle. So we have 1 here, 2 over here. We're going to take our main color, wrap it around. So now we've created a yarn over for this one stitch. We're going to go into this next stitch as if to purl and purl it, and then go into this next stitch, slip it off the needle, and create a yarn over. So now let's bring both yarns to the front, go into the next stitch, and purl it. let's show you what that looks like. Okay, so here is our increase. We have a knit with a yarn over, just a purl, and then a knit with a yarn over. So the only thing that doesn't have a shawl is that middle stitch. We'll work it again. So let's work a couple knits and purls and then we'll work that again. Okay, so I'm going to work a decrease here. Purl the next stitch. And work an increase. All right. We're going into that knit stitch, knit it, but don't slip it off the left needle, yarn over, knit it, but don't slip it off, and slip it off the next needle. So now we have 3 stitches coming out. We're going to transfer 2 stitches to the left-hand needle, drop our contrasting color, pick up our main color, and yarn over. Go into that first stitch on the left needle, purl it, and then just slip the last stitch to our right needle and bring both yarns to the front. Go ahead and go into that purl stitch and purl it. All right. So it looks kind of funky, but that's our knit stitch, our purl stitch, and our knit stitch. So there's 3 stitches here. And I'm just going to keep working the stitches to end, and I'll show you how to work into those stitches on the next round. Okay, so this is the next round. We're going to start our increase, or we just did our increases, and now we're going to see how we're going to work into these stitches. So it's just brioche knits and purls this round, but that middle stitch of the increase looks kind of weird because there's no shawl. So we'll go over that quickly. So that's this first stitch of the increase. We're just going to go into it with its shawl. This one's lumped over the top, so let's make sure we free it. Here is our purl stitch. So let's bring both yarns to the front, purl into it, and then finally knit into this last increase stitch. And we can just keep brioche purling, brioche knitting. Alright, I'm going to show you what that looks like. So that is our increase now. We have a knit, a purl, and a knit. Knit, purl, knit. And now they all have shawls associated with it. So we're back on track. Okay, so we've done our increases. We've done our next row of just brioche knits and purls, and now we're going to do just one more brioche increase with no decreases associated with it. So that's row 6. And the reason we do this is because we need to get back to the stitch count that we had. So let's do that. Again, we're working the smaller size, so we'll just have 2 brioche stitches on the edge. We're going to do a brioche knit, brioche purl, and now we're going to increase. So we're going to go into that knit stitch, as if to knit, but keep it on our left hand needle, yarn over, back into that stitch, as if to knit, and slip it off. Slip these 2 stitches to our left hand needle, yarn over, bring it to the front, purl that first stitch, and slip that next stitch. Alright, going into a brioche purl, bring both yarns to the front, purl, we are knitting along, happy to finally understand what we're trying to do, when all of a sudden you notice that's incorrect. So right now I'm going to show you what to do to fix it. I'm just going to slip these stitches over, but you can obviously work the next row in pattern. But for demonstration's sake, so we're here now. We're going to drop this stitch down. If you've not done this before, I really recommend doing 1 stitch at a time, or you're going to be a little confused on where these shawls go. So if you have multiple stitches, like say this stitch is the inverse because you just got your color dominance messed up, not a big deal. Just do this stitch and then drop that stitch. That's my recommendation. You can obviously do whatever you want, but that's just what I would recommend. So we're gonna ladder this stitch all the way down. Okay. I grabbed the wrong pink crochet hook when I was getting set up, so I'm gonna use this. You wanna use a slightly smaller crochet hook than what you are knitting on. So this is a 3mm, and I'm using 3.5mm needles for this. Okay, I'm gonna go into that loop, and I'm going to just kind of assess what's going on here. So I'm going to pull all of these strands out and kind of see what's happening. So I have 1 shawl here, 2, 3. I'm going to go over top of 1, so this shawl right here, I'm going to go over the top of it, and I'm going to go underneath 2. So there's 1 under, or 1 over the top for this one, and then 2 here. And then I'm going to hook the correct color and pull it through. Okay, I'm going to repeat this process. So we're going to go over top 1 shawl, this one right here, and underneath 2. I'm going to hook the correct color, pull it through. Do it again. Over the top of 1, under 2, hook this correct color, pull through. Over 1, under 2, hook this color, and now finally this last one, over 1, under 2, and pull up. Okay, so I'm going to transfer that stitch onto my needle, but I need to make that shawl, so that last one we went under, the one that's coming from this stitch, is what we're going to put on our needle. So this main color that made the last stitch, this purl stitch, is the one that's going to be the shawl for this stitch. And honestly, that's all there is. If it happens on a purl, then flip it over and do the same thing. So you see how this one lost its shawl or yarn over when we laddered down? That's fine. We're just gonna go ahead and pick it up and saddle it correctly. So that's all there is to it. I do really recommend, if you're not familiar with this, please put in a lifeline. It's much easier to just rip back than try and find your place in the brioche if you're not comfortable with it yet.